The charismatic 26-year-old former coal miner Evan Roberts was still in study for his ministry when he found himself at the forefront of a massive upsurge in congregational activity throughout Wales and beyond. The subsequent Liverpool Crusade of 1905 took in a number of nonconformist chapels of varying persuasion. Roberts's sermons drew huge crowds, with most reportedly having to gather outside the already packed venues. At this juncture, the city's numerous Presbyterian congregations were at odds, with many adherents abandoning their chapels to form new ones. Subsequent feelings of resentment and rivalry were very much in evidence at Roberts's orations, and were exacerbated by the minister's confrontational and intransigent tone. Matters were brought to a head when the proceedings at Sun Hall, in front of a gathering of some 6,000, were continuously disrupted, at one stage by an alleged attempt to hypnotise Roberts from within the crowd. As the campaign continued, dogged by controversy, Roberts's opponents line up in the local press to accuse and denounce him. As his work in Liverpool drew to a close, Roberts began to show symptoms of the ill health that would shadow him for the rest of his days. Liverpool, 13th of October 1914. The conference saw a practical demonstration of the Thomas splint, an account of a visit to the sand dunes at Weld Blundell's estate, and a tour of the occupied Fisher Bendix factory in Kirby. Though by and large overlooked by the medical establishment during his lifetime, Hugh Owen Thomas is generally considered to have been a pioneering figure in the history of orthopaedic surgery. He came from Anglesey, where his family had assumed the unqualified profession of bone setting, a practice which, in the wake of his medical studies in London, Thomas was to distance himself from. Most of his professional life was spent in the run-down districts of Liverpool, treating the poor, amongst whom he was held in high regard. His contribution to the management of fractures was not widely recognised until after his death, and in particular the onset of the First World War, where the introduction of the Thomas splint contributed to the mortality rate of compound fractures of the femur falling from 80% in 1916 to less than 8% in 1918. Members of the conference had witnessed that on the 15th of August 1857, a notice was served by the attorney for the Weld Blundell family, warning against the taking of marram or star grass, which served to secure the sand dunes on their estate. Maybe come back to this one later. The last act of this conference saw the gathering leave for a visit to the Fisher Bendix factory during the 1972 workers' occupation, in the company of children and teachers from the Scotland Road Free School. The Free School ran between 1970 and 1972. Bill Murphy and John Ord attempted to establish a school run by children, parents and teachers together as a radical alternative to the state education system. Birkenhead, 13th of October 1915. This conference began with a call for assistance forwarded from the office of Thomas Haynes Dudley, a musical interlude comprising of demo tapes, followed by an astrophotographic projection show. A call for information regarding the design and construction of the Laird rams was relayed to the floor. At the height of the American Civil War, the Confederate naval officer James Dunwoody Bullock arrived in Liverpool unofficially, with orders to commission the construction, albeit illegally, of warships to advance the South's naval powers. 2 such warships were ordered in 1862 from the Laird shipyard and became known as the Laird Rams. Steam-powered and ironclad, each would possess an array of armament and firepower, as well as an underwater ram capable of sinking any wooden-hulled vessel. On completion of both ships, information obtained by the US Consul Thomas Haynes Dudley asserting Confederate ownership was used in evidence to detain and decommission the vessels. A significant victory which led to the dissolution in British shipyards of a modern Confederate Navy. The self-taught astronomer Isaac Roberts' pioneering studies in celestial photography began whilst living in Rock Ferry on the Wirral Peninsula. He perfected a telescope, camera and tracking device combination that enabled the clear picturing of deep space objects, including star clusters, nebulae and interstellar gas clouds. Roberts was the first person to identify the spiral shape of the Great Andromeda Nebula M31 and discovered the Great Orion Nebula to be a much larger and complex structure than previously thought. The conference of 1916, Salford, involved a walk along the Manchester Ship Canal, a talk by a fugitive Irish Republican, and a discussion outside the court of the Salford 100. The group undertook a walk in the company of Max Ferrer, a Jewish émigré artist and a fictitious character invented by W.G. Sebald. From his novel The Emigrant